I've decided to skip the intro. I'm literally just going right into this because you already know what's up. This is a top one. Specifically, this one is called Amethyst, and somehow I managed to pass that click. First try, and now I can't do it. This is probably a symptom of the Amethyst experience, if you will. I do really like the decoration in this section. I think this is probably one of the better decorated sections of the level. It is always a good idea for one of the best parts of your level to be the first part, because it really sets the standard of what people think of the level when they first get into it. Specifically in this section, I really like how there's several layers of foreground elements, and a lot of those foreground elements kind of blur the closer they are to the quote-unquote camera. Yeah, these clicks are quite annoying, I think mostly for me, because I can't see where those hitboxes are. I'd like to see where those hitboxes are actually. Oh, okay. Is that just me, or is that bottom hitbox there slightly darker than those top hitboxes? And how does that even happen? Ah, that's how I do it. Wow, this is free with hitboxes on. I better take off hitboxes. Don't. Sounds like Close Encounters. Yeah, this experience so far is exactly as I expected it to be, which is dying at ridiculously hard clicks I have to do multiple times over. Quite a lot like the experience that I had with was the level's face, Andromeda. Apart from this is worse than Andromeda in that respect. Yeah, that click is awful. This click right here of this pink orb. Yeah, I don't think this part is possible for me without having to look at the hitboxes so I can see what I'm doing. See what I mean? It's just free with hitboxes on. It's actually free if you turn hitboxes on. This is probably the first top one to have art style decoration. As you know, Tidal Wave would technically count, but I mean like art style decoration on this level. Like there have been plenty of top 10s that have had art style decoration on this level, but not a top one. Invisible speed change. So this was verified by one of the best players in Geometry Dash at the moment, who is W Popoff. Apparently he's very good at learning levels. What is going on with that saw? It's very, very messy and unusual looking. Let's play a game. Are the hitboxes fixed? Take your guesses. They are fixed. Actually, are they? I mean, this could just be me, but maybe the spikes are larger than normal? But those saws are definitely fixed. I'm not sure about the spikes though, whether those are actual extensions on the spikes or there's just a small spike within that spike that's making them look fixed. Oh, it's one of these clicks. Anyway, W Popoff is very good and fast at learning levels. I'm not sure how large his attempt counts are on certain levels, because it is surprisingly hard to find his attempt counts on levels that he has already completed. In fact, his attempt count for this level isn't even in the verification video, it's in his community tab for some reason. So yeah, that's how I was able to find out that this took him like 115,000 attempts. I would say, for a person who has a similar skill level to Zoink, 100,000 attempts on a level is simply absurd. It didn't even take 100,000 attempts for Zoink to do Tidal Wave, and took W Popoff like 100,000 on this level, which is half the length of Tidal Wave, and Tidal Wave has got all that time to build up its difficulty, whereas this has to compress everything in such a tiny little space, like Andromeda does. So my estimate on how this level's gonna play is gonna feel like a buffed Andromeda. And so far my suspicions are correct. I'm noticing a lot of gimmicks in here that are similar to Avernus, with especially in the ship sections. Actually, yeah, these buffed. But what I mean by that is it's got similar gimmicks, is the whole idea of the orb into the gravity portal, or slope into a gravity portal, and then you have to like click just before the portal and get your trajectory right on all those ship sections, which is a gameplay feature I don't particularly like in levels, but considering it's a widespread feature throughout a lot of these harder levels, maybe people like it? I don't know. I know for sure I don't like it. Hey, look at that, it's a storm well. Someone actually started to add some infrastructure in this cavern, this Amethyst cavern. Surely once I get to the wave, it'll be fine. It'll be fun. Low and then, but not too low, so you have to go in between smacking your head and splitting off in order to get that. And that's kind of sad gameplay. This is also an unofficial sequel to the Golden, and the official one being Avernus, which had gameplay from Bow. Actually, this wave isn't too bad. Then again, wave is my best game mode. This level is definitely better than the Golden in terms of its decoration. I can't really say a lot about the gameplay because, you know, the easier level is at this point, the better the gameplay is. And I'm clipping into that sword, like on the edges. What is this hitbox? I'm going through the... My wave trail at least was going through the hitboxes. I must be like only just scraping it. No, I actually went through the hitbox. What? What is this sorcery? Oh no, do I have no clip limits on? Okay, I don't have no clip limits on. It's just last time I was playing I had no clip limits on, so I was a little bit afraid there. I don't have no clip limits on, yet I can half clip through this, so my guess is that it is one of these crazy things called a negative hitbox. I still question how those things work, but like, apparently it's meant to be like no touch before no touch that you would have in 2.1, because back in 2.1 when this was probably being built and decorated, there was no such thing as no touch, so you'd have to try and recreate things that have hitboxes using other blocks, like what happened with Every End, why the background is so object intensive, because they had to use 4 or so objects for one single object to make a no clip object for the background. Okay, this click is awful. And then that background part just blinds you. It's not as bad as Silent Acropolis does, but it's still quite annoying. Can I go under? How much can I go under? Ha! That's funny. That's so funny. Alright. Anyway, and apparently another way that you could create no-clip objects was that you could made an object smaller than 0 with broken slider limits for the scale. It, like, reversed, and then maybe that version didn't have a hitbox. I mean, just, as I said, just a guess, but like, potentially that's how those things were made. Why should I touch the pink orb if it's just going to make me go crazy? Pink orb is just gonna make me smash. I think I missed something. I have to click that tiny little orb in the portal so that I can do the other things, which is a very hard orb to click. That's how you do it. That is an awful combination of orbs. Yikes. Anyway, what I was saying about how these levels compare, you know, that being the Golden, Avernus, and this level. This is the unofficial sequel, and I cannot see what I'm doing with this decoration. Everything kind of blends into each other. I mean, you can tell that the colourful parts are tips of spikes, but you can't really tell where the base of the structures are. Or at least from a sight reading perspective, not that this level is ever meant to be sight read or anything, being the kind of level that it is. The Golden, as I said, is decorated, I think even for the day, I don't think it was decorated the best. When I came back to the community and the Golden was verified and I had no idea what it was, and like, what's this random green level called the Golden doing it like 8th position on the demon list? This thing looks stupid. And the gameplay is probably a lot more fun than the other 2 levels, you know, by virtue of its difficulty. But Avernus, I actually thought looked kind of good. And this level, I was unsure at first whether it looked as good as Avernus or not. But I can say now, I think, yeah, this does definitely look better than Avernus. Wait, what is this? I can just hide up there. The nature of the levels is so compressed, it is kind of hard to have fun gameplay from those levels, especially with the difficulty level. Past a certain difficulty is not really fun. So I'd say in terms of gameplay, both Avernus and Amethyst are as bad as each other for their respective difficulties. What is going on here? Can I actually go between there? No, I don't think so. Can I sight read this? I did! Apparently there's actually still one more golden related level to come out called Eccles or something. I don't remember exactly how it's spelt or pronounced, but it does have some of Bo's last gameplay in it, and it's a level that's going to be hosted by Pocky Windfish, who did Avernus. It's being advertised as kind of like a forever top 1 thing or top 0. Because something I have noticed with all the levels in, let's just call it the Golden series, all of them have competed with Riot levels. Like the first Golden was meant to dethrone Tartarus. It did. Initially it was placed harder than Tartarus. Then it got dropped back to being position 2. Okay, what is this? Yeah, that's nonsense. Oh my god, this part's nonsense too. There's Straight Fly coming up with the... Actually no, that wasn't too bad. Although it'll probably be as bad as I thought it was if I don't have hitboxes on. And with the shake going mad. So the Golden was in competition with Tartarus, and then Avernus was in competition with Acheron. It was like, which is harder, Avernus and Acheron? Initially, Avernus was placed at 2, and then Avernus turned out to be harder. And I think today, Avernus is still harder than Acheron. So there was a competition between those two levels, and Avernus was meant to dethrone Acheron. And then now this level is out, and is not in competition with any levels, but it did release at the same time as Thinking Space 2, which I do want to make. No, which I kind of have to make a video on, because that's another top 1. How do you do this click? This is like the most micro click. What? Actually, I don't even need a click, I can just go. I can just skip that last click. Haha! I don't care if that's not the way to go, I deserved it. I don't want to have to deal with this rubbishy whatever. I have to say, these dual wave clicks are definitely the hardest wave clicks in the level. They are ridiculous. But at least I don't have to do the last one if I pull things off correctly. So as I was saying, the Acheron, we are counting official Golden sequels, and if the trend stays the same, that they will always go up against Riot levels, there's a possibility that it could be going up against Eternus whenever that level releases. No way, actual robot. Actually, I quite like the way this section looks too. Also really like that, how those arrows look like a fish almost, like a colourful sunfish or something. And how the orbs look cracked in this section. Really like how that sword looks, it looks like a flower. That's actually one of the best sword designs I've seen in recent memory, actually. I just got to comment on that. But Zoink is looking to be the next victor of this level. He's already got pretty good progress, and pretty fast progress as well, which is surprising. With 28 to 100, and 80%, so he's pretty much got this level down. As for which of the levels is the hardest, I cannot say at this point. But I will say W Popoff has beaten, apparently his top 3 hardest levels now aren't even, Tidal Wave isn't even in the top 3 of his 3 hardest levels anymore. His 3rd hardest level is Buffed Tidal Wave. You know, this sounds pretty similar to the Zoink Acheron thing, you know? When technically the hardest level in Geometry Dash was Buffed Acheron. And now W Popoff has done a similar thing where Buffed Tidal Wave. Okay, this robot click is awful. I have to say the wave is particularly difficult compared to other levels, but all the other parts that aren't the wave are more difficult than the wave. So yeah, in fact it's almost starting to get a bit tempting to do all the parts that aren't wave in 0.1x speed for me, because these things are just taking forever. And it would be faster if I went to 0.1, because then I'd be able to calculate my stuff a lot easier, or I should just turn on hitboxes at this point. Anyway, so that's W Popoff's third hardest level is Buffed Tidal Wave, and then his second hardest level is Slaughterhouse, 3 times in a row. And his hardest, of course, is Amethyst. And W Popoff has since bet Amethyst again, I think with a slight buff at the start, something to do with CBF. So technically, yeah, he's also now the first victor of Amethyst 2. Zoink's beaten Tidal Wave and verified a whole bunch of levels in the top 10. But jumping from Tidal Wave to Amethyst could potentially be a lot larger jump than what we're thinking, considering the information of W Popoff's top 3 achievements now. However, Zoink has also beat a level called Continuous Processing, and no one knows how hard that level is because he's the only one who's really beat it or really wants to get any progress on it, because the gameplay in that level is very awful, and also it's not going to be rated and placed on the demon list, but in my opinion, I think that level is probably harder than Tidal Wave. So there's that, which we don't know how that compares to any of W Popoff's achievements. Plus, Thinking Space 2, we don't know how hard that is compared to Amethyst. I mean, potentially we could gauge how hard Thinking Space 2 is to Continuous Processing, but that still doesn't tell us a lot about how hard it would be compared to any of W Popoff's recent achievements. So it's going to be very interesting once these two are placed. I mean, for all we know, Thinking Space 2 could just be end up being like a lot harder than this level. I mean, even if Zoink beats Amethyst a lot faster than W Popoff does, it still doesn't mean that Thinking Space 2 is any harder, because, you know, there's a whole victor thing where if a level's already been beaten, it is easier for the first victor to beat it. You know, I keep thinking those things there aren't arrows and actually swords, so I keep avoid them in the mini portal area here. But really, it should just be okay. What are the hitboxes here? Wow, that's a lot easier than it looks. You have to admit, it is still very confusing to tell what I can hit and what I can't hit, because there's something on top of that orb that's blocking. It's like, oh, can I not touch that orb? But then again, there's no area for me to pass. So this is once again a case of a level's decoration buffing a level for people who are sight reading it for the first time. Not that that matters for a super legendary extreme demon like this. I really like that. I like that little rotating part. I feel like levels should have more small little rotating parts in them, because I feel like we still haven't unlocked the full potential of sections with moving objects and Geometry Dash that add to the difficulty. It did prove to ourselves on the release of 2.2 that we can indeed add camera controls and stuff to levels to elevate them without making the gameplay absolutely terrible. So I reckon it is time for us to move on and try and fix the errors that we have had in our 2.0 and 2.1 eras with rotating objects and moving objects. I feel like there's just so much potential that's untapped because of the perception of those triggers in gameplay. Okay, this orbs and ship stuff is ridiculous. It doesn't even give me a chance to recover myself. I'd very much like to get to wave again. That would be great. Because the wave is actually not impossible like the rest of the game modes. The wave is just super duper uber extreme demon hard, whereas the rest of this stuff is impossible. Also, I do really like the oysters, or whatever they are in there. I like all the little spots and little animated elements in them. Very cool. Ooh, through the club step monster. Surely, is this the last wave? Hey, it's the last wave. I do have to say this section looks really good. Initially I told myself, yeah, I'm not going to make a decoration breakdown of Amethyst, but now that I'm looking at it close up, I think my mind has been changed. I would very much like to do a decoration breakdown of certain parts, not the whole thing of Amethyst, because there's no way I'll have time or anyone would be interested in me to break down the whole thing. I do like in this section that we have given arrows to show where to go in the wave. They're actually very helpful. The thing is with art style decoration and very hard gameplay is that it is a lot harder to discern how hard a level actually is with art style gameplay, because you think some hitboxes are harder than what they actually are, and then you end up going twice as hard trying to avoid things when you really don't need to. Or sometimes it's the opposite way around. Oh, robot. I was afraid we were going to have some robot gameplay there. I'm glad that was not the case. I did not feel like doing robot gameplay. Oh, I'm blinded. I'm blinded. I can't see. The decoration in this entire area could also double as, if it was made a bit grey and potentially a bit more red, this could actually double as space decoration as well. This decoration is on a whole nother level. It's quite good. This is not the sort of decoration I would expect in a top 1 Extreme Demon. I mean, sure, top 1 Extreme Demons are given great decoration, but this is just on another level in terms of like decoration for a top 1. I mean, sure, some of the parts do look a little inconsistent in terms of decoration, but artistically those sections are very unique, and I like them for that reason. So they get a pass. Actually, 76. Isn't this where the end is? Because I remember there was like a whole bunch of like random UFO portals and some orbs, and then you just get to the end screen. So that could be what this is. Am I right? Am I right or am I wrong? Am I right? That's one of the things I don't really like about UFO. It can be so precise sometimes, where like you can fail to click all the way back there and then it comes back to haunt you. I don't like that about UFO. Yeah, these last clicks are, if they are the last clicks, are very difficult. No, these can't be the last clicks, because I remember that there was a section with mini wave. So we're not quite there yet, but we're close. We're very close to the end. Or maybe this was a section that I thought was mini wave, but it actually wasn't. I think that makes more sense. Okay, this last click is quite hard. Actually, no, it's not hard. It's just I can't see what I'm doing. Because it turns white, because that's where the end screen is. So you have to guess if these last clicks. No, I didn't get it. Did I get it? Yes! I got it. Actually, this end screen looks amazing. Is that the Amethyst in the heart of the cave? It is. That is the Amethyst in the heart of the cave. That's a very good looking Amethyst, by the way. Okay, so my thoughts on Amethyst. Firstly, the start is ridiculously bogus and hard from a gameplay perspective. Then again, that is kind of expected with the fact that this is a top 1 Extreme Demon. And it is also exactly as I predicted the gameplay would feel like Andromeda, but harder. And yeah, that is pretty much what I experienced. Very tight, difficult gameplay compressed within 1 minute and 40 seconds, because at this point, with the difficult levels that are there, that exist, that is what we have to do now. And this wave is kind of okay in terms of difficulty. This wave, I'm not entirely sure how hard it is. It might be about as hard as the Avernus wave, I reckon. This wave. It's definitely got some of my favorite decoration. This wave, I think, is the worst wave, just because of the amount of fast clicks and micro clicks. It just feels awful. Also really like those swords, they look like flowers. There's some ridiculously good sword decoration in this level. And I also really like that crystal spike there. Looks like a wizard's wand. Like, that's a pretty sick sword too. Oyster thing. As I said before, basically all the parts that aren't the wave feel a lot harder than the wave. But then again, that's because wave is my best game mode, so for all I know, the rest of the stuff might actually be alright, might actually be pretty balanced. But this wave is certainly not the wave of the worst gameplay, but it is definitely the hardest wave aside from that. Like, some of the gaps and some of the portal clicks are ridiculous. And yeah, that is Amethyst, the new hardest level in Geometry Dash. And I would like to say, no matter how bad the gameplay is, this level does have something excellent going for it. And that is that this is the best looking level to ever be placed in the top 1 position. I think this looks way better than Tidal Wave. It looks better than Acheron, Tartarus, Zodiac. I can't think of a single level that would probably rival the decoration of Amethyst. It's got gameplay like Avernus, but harder and potentially worse. In fact, probably worse, considering Zoink hates a lot of the gameplay of Amethyst. And I'm not sure how hard this is compared to something like Thinking Space 2 or Grief whenever that gets released. Despite how bad the gameplay of these 3 upcoming levels are, you know, that being Grief, this level, and Thinking Space 2, all of them have pretty good decoration. And I guess I was just so skeptical at the start about the decoration, because the only versions of Amethyst that I'd seen, like of course I had seen the full showcase at one point, was the LDM version, which doesn't really do justice to how this level looks at all. I think the gameplay plays worse than Tidal Wave. Plays about on par with Avernus, potentially a little worse, but then again, as I said, a lot of that can't be helped. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. About Amethyst, I'll probably have another video on Thinking Space 2 coming out at some point later, but yeah.